And
BlogTalkRadio.
Okay, well, it looks like we're live. This is Open Money on Blog Talk Radio, and Alan Rosenblith is in Portland, and I'm in the Comox Valley. I'm Ernie Jacob. Michael Linton is usually with us here on Blog Talk Open Money, but he's teaching Alexander Technique this morning. Had a client, so he couldn't make it, but he said he might join us later on in the show. So, Alan, how are you?
Hi. Yeah, how's it going? Real good here. Things are moving right along.
Great.
In Portland.
So Les might join us as well if I can see him somewhere on my Skype, or if I've invited him to this to the back channel that we've got going on Skype. This is amazing technology. I can't get over it. But here I am. Michael usually handles. Geez, I wonder if I've been live all this time, because my switchboard just says on live now. Yeah, so it's confusing because Michael usually takes care of some of the technical stuff around here, and I just talk or don't talk. Anyway, so you and I were talking about that just before the show, and about how complex and technical this whole thing is, but when you get right down to it, it's dead simple. And what we're talking about is open money and community way and community currencies, let systems, mutual credit systems, and sometimes called complementary currencies, but we call them community currencies. It makes more sense to us because we're talking about communities.
Yeah, and I was just saying, I was looking at this sort of promotional corporate barter or commercial barter video that was released, and sort of in this typical commercial style, and but they had this great quote in there from somebody who said, in a really chipper voice, it's simple once you understand it.
That's right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I bet you the Wright brothers said that a few times.
Yep.
Anyway, so we're talking about the world of open money, and we're talking about Community Way, particularly because the way we see Community Way is as a startup strategy for developing community currencies in any community. It's a way of introducing this wonderful world of open money to businesses, particularly, because you have to have businesses you have to have businesses accepting and wanting community currencies for it to be vibrant and solid and real. Yeah, I mean, and I would also say it does, in our scenario, there's kind of, it's very easy to get atomized in our economy. And, there's the nonprofit sector and the for-profit sector and, all these kind of different players that work under different rule sets and have different agendas and all that. And one of the things I really like about Community Way is its ability to bring these somewhat atomized elements together and to work in a sort of harmonized fashion, so and build a win-win-win partnership between businesses, nonprofits, the public, and of course the system itself. So, yeah, right. So let me go once around the loop here with this Community Way scenario. Starting with businesses, because it's the businesses who issue the community currency by donating it to community organizations, projects, microcredit funds, as we talked about in the last show. So, and what we recommend to businesses that they donate at the level of 1,000 Community Way dollars per what we call FTEs up here in Canada. I don't know if you call them FTEs in the States, but that's a full-time equivalent. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. So anyway, so a business has got 5 full-time workers. Whether there's 10 people and they're working half-time, we're talking about 5 FTE, would donate 5,000 Community Way dollars to a project, charity, community organization of their choice. All that means to the business is that they open an account in the Community Way project at negative 5,000. In other words, they have made a commitment to the community that they're good for 5,000 of these Community Way dollars. And what that means to the business is, first of all, that when somebody comes in with these Community Way dollars, that they accept them, and they set the rate at which they accept these Community Way dollars. So and that's an important point for businesses, because people naturally think that it's either or. Either it's normal money or it's community money, which ain't so.
Well, and I think that really, just to distinguish this from more traditional kinds of donations and in-kind donations and that kind of thing. If you're donating, say, a printer to a community service organization, you don't donate, 20% of a printer. It's a whole printer. If you're donating your services, you donate your services. That's what you do. In this scenario,
it's basically a loss for the business. Whereas with Community Way, what they do is they set the rate of acceptance so that, for instance, a restaurant could accept Community Way dollars at 50% of the price on a meal. So if you go in with Community Way dollars and you have a $10 meal, you would pay $5 US dollars and 5 community dollars plus taxes in the US dollars. So the business covers its cash costs, its normal money costs. A restaurant, a grocery could do in the neighborhood of 15 to 20%. An acupuncturist or someone starting out with a business could do, a service business could do it all at 100%, provided they were also getting some cash customers. Because not everybody is going to be coming into your place of business with these Community Way dollars. You're still going to have your regular cash customers, plus you're going to get these new customers, and that's the whole point for business. This is a loyalty program like none other.
Yeah. They get
new business, they get loyal business, and it doesn't cut into their costs. It's additional. It's whatever capacity, extra capacity a business has is what they can do in community money.
Yeah, and of course, businesses get to build their reputation in the community as being champions of social responsibility. And I understand correctly, they get to take it as tax deductible donations, in-kind donations as well. So
it's taxable. It's taxable if it goes to a registered charity.
Yeah.
However, but let's say it's a microcredit project, right? So a fund, a microcredit fund that they're donating their community dollars to. Now, the microcredit fund might be a registered charity, or it could be an independent. It could be just someone who wants to start a business, and a bunch of businesses donate community dollars to, or don't they basically front the community dollars because they'll get them back. They're going to get them back from the business because that new business is going to be earning community dollars.
Yep.
So there are many, many different ways that businesses can play this game, and it becomes a real game when it's happening somewhere in a real live community. We tried that here in the Comox Valley, and in Tofino, And the system works. We use smart cards to move the money around. It was an account-based system, and the cash portion was on smart cards. And we got about 40 businesses donating about 25,000 Community Way dollars to about 25 organizations in the community. And the businesses chose. Basically our pitch to the business was, who do you like? Who do you give to now that you'd like to give more to? So they'd nominate the Women's Resource Center or the Child Development Association or the Literacy Group, the Project Watershed. Numerous organizations received donations of these Community Way dollars. And the businesses went negative 60,000, and these 25 organizations were positive 60,000, because the ones who accepted the money, there were a few that didn't. The ones who accepted the money were positive, opened an account in the Community Way system, and their account was credited. So we have the pump. We have 60,000 negative on one side and 60,000 positive on the other side. Unfortunately for us, the money didn't move, or didn't move significantly. There was a little bit of money moving around, like the Child Development Association paid their staffers a $200 Community Way dollar Christmas bonus. And so each of the staffers, I think there were about 12 of them, who got smart cards, got an account with 200 Community Way dollars in it, and a smart card, and they loaded the smart card with 50 or 60 Community Way dollars, and then spent them around town at participating businesses. So it worked for them, but unfortunately the other organizations didn't know what to do with it. And we couldn't explain it to them or they didn't feel confident enough, or anyway, the money got stuck at the community organizations, and so therefore the businesses didn't see the traffic.
Right.
So it just fizzled out.
Well, so let's talk about that. So what is the pitch to community service organizations, and what are some of the ways we can think about making this as easy and to understand and easy to implement as possible for them?
Well, for the community organizations, it's depends on the community organization. A lot of organizations are very stressed out and under tremendous pressure without the necessary resources, i.e. without money, to do the work that they're required to do. So typically you've got one person carrying the whole load, and that person is sometimes partly paid, sometimes volunteer, and this is a complication for them. So they don't and their bookkeepers and their accountants, right? They don't know what to do with this. This is why the Child Development Association did well with this, or in the beginning. Because they're a well-funded organization to begin with. So right. They have the administration. They had an accounting firm that who they asked whether this was tax creditable, for instance, right? They wanted to know if they should issue a tax receipt to the donor businesses. And the accounting firm said, yes, this is money. Yeah,
no, it's just the same as a gift certificate if the business was donating a gift certificate. So.
That's right. And one other organization whose executive director, who's the only staffer, and who was being paid for 3 or 4 days a week, but was typically working 5 and 6. Went to her board and said, "Look, why don't you pay me for my my extra time in these Community Way dollars?" Okay, and then she spent them because she understood this. She got this. She went around, she took the money and she spent it. She was a single mom with a couple of kids. Or was she single? Maybe she wasn't. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is that she knew how to make good use of the money that she earned. the community money that she earned.
Yeah. Well, so what's the every program, I guess, has its carrots and its sticks. So what's the carrot in this scenario? How can we make this carrot as appealing as possible to the community service organizations to get really some break through some of those adoption barriers?
I think it needs a leader. Somebody. It's like if that woman had stayed with the literacy organization here in the Valley, eventually people would have heard from her and would have followed her lead. Right? Unfortunately, she left town. She went to work in another province, right? And the new executive director that followed her didn't have a clue. So if you can find one or two, or three, however many community organizations in Portland, because you are thinking about doing a community way in Portland, you just find somebody like Maria Lynn.
Yeah, get those early adopters on board is kind of what you're saying.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, because
it's people who have some kind of business savvy. You see, because businesses don't have a problem with this idea at all. They understand it immediately as a loyalty for them. In terms of first of all, they see that it's a loyalty program for them, and even if it doesn't work, they lose nothing.
Yeah.
And they get, and in fact they can't lose, and they gain just from being on the list of donor businesses. Yeah. Right. So they look
having their name recognized.
Yeah. So they look good, right? So that's the thing for businesses. It's a no-brainer. It's easy. So if you can find somebody, some people in the community or in the nonprofit world who have that kind of business savvy, you're away to the races.
Well, I think there's a couple things here. I'd like to jump in. One, is at the risk of mixing metaphors here, I think one can really talk about the size of the carrot. And in this particular case, I think there's a pretty large carrot to offer nonprofits. Because, at the level of $1,000 per FTE, very quickly that becomes a huge generator of income for the third sector, especially in a city the size of Portland. But, even in smaller cities as well. Where that's a level of additional income for the third sector that is going to be really, really significant. So that's one thing, I think. I think the second thing is also a lot of people in the nonprofit world and charitable world and all like that, at least in my experience, have become probably increasingly frustrated with having to beg all the time. For money. And really, in this particular scenario, to get this money, the nonprofits don't have to do any begging at all. It's really the development group in the middle, which doesn't beg. It sells. And that's a very, very different relationship because it sells a loyalty program to businesses, and as a result, raises money for the nonprofit sector. So there's no begging involved. It's a very different relationship. And I think that also means that nonprofits can then introduce this into their networks with a very different mood. We have that kind of image of charitable organizations with the thermometer, sitting out in the front lawn of the church or whatever it is, right? And the thermometer, everybody's like crossing their fingers and come on, we got to get that red up to the top of the thermometer. And this is a different mood entirely.
That is a struggle. That is a struggle for a limited supply money. And not only a struggle, it's a competition. It's a fierce competition between community organizations.
Yeah.
And that's very debilitating.
I mean, and I think especially when you consider the fact that the people who get into community service, the community service end of things, are probably not, their personalities are probably more oriented towards, charitable thoughts and cooperation and all that anyway. And they're sort of put into this environment which is, forces the exact opposite kind of attitude and behavior. So I think that's...
Yeah, I've done a lot of fundraising in my time, and it's hateful. I've done door to door. I've organized events. I mean, it's and the time and effort and volunteering and subsidizing. Throughout my whole life, I have subsidized the organizations that I have been working with.
Yeah.
Everybody in that world does it, and it's getting tougher and tougher and more cutthroat and competitive, and you can see more and more business terminology creeping into that world, so that people can get the cash that they need to do the good works that they're trying to do.
So, I mean, I think, when we're talking about how to present this to charitable organizations, and community-centered organizations, I think just emphasizing the sort of stress-relieving aspects of this, it would be...
Well, it's not difficult. It's not difficult introducing this to a community organization. The difficulty is getting them to move the money. See, when I went to the community organization, basically what I did was I went around to the businesses. This was cold calling businesses on Main Street in this little town that I live in, and I just went from business to business to business, cold calling them and just telling them about the program and signing them up, saying basically the pitch was, we want to start, we want to get this community weight program off the ground. We need about 12 businesses to get to launch this thing, and so I want to know if you will do it, if they will do it. In other words, if the other will you sign up if the other 11 sign up?
Right, sort of memorandum of understanding type of thing.
Well, it was just a verbal thing, because I went around and when I got the 12 businesses, I came back and to the first business I said, okay, I've got the other 11. Are you in? And there was only one that said no, and that wasn't. And by that time, I was already up to about 25 businesses. Right. So that part of it was easy. Then I went to the community organizations who had been offered this money, and I said, okay. So I went to the Child Development Association, and I said, okay, these 3 businesses want to donate this money to your organization, and this is how it works. Do you want it? And again, most of them said, yeah, sure, we'll take it. The problem was they didn't know what to do with it once they had it.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, and maybe I want to ask you about some of the software implementations, because it seems like one of the ways that this is gonna, this becomes a well-oiled machine here, is to make sure, because I mean, really what it is the charitable organizations, the nonprofits. They're the ones who are going to have to really promote this to the general public. And they promote it to the general public through their networks, which they already have developed. First of all, is that correct understanding?
Yes, that's exactly correct. And that's not necessarily a matter for the organization itself either, right? And as you say, there's well, first of all, we're talking about a different world than the world we rolled this thing out in the Comox Valley. Whenever it was 5-6 years ago. Gosh, time does fly. And this is a small town, and Michael and I, who launched this thing, are known here in the Valley as weirdos anyway, right? So it's amazing we got as far as we did. But in new territory with the kind of tools that are available now, i.e., especially the networking tool, online networking tools, that people are especially young people are very familiar with.
Mm.
Once people begin to see what this is, they're going to be talking about it.
Yeah. Well, I've seen that already.
That's going to warm up. That's going to warm up the atmosphere considerably. We were doing this in a very cold atmosphere, in a very suspicious atmosphere, right? Without any leadership from either the business community or the nonprofit community. This was Michael and I trying to light a fire in wet wood.
Yeah.
Okay, I think you're in quite a different situation there. So don't, these things that I'm telling you aren't to necessarily caution you as to let you know how easy it is to set it up.
Well, I can say that,
I think it's also easy to turn people on, especially if you are with the kind of people that you're working with and the kind of network that you already have.
And I can say that in the last couple weeks, last several weeks as I've been presenting this around town, I mean, it's just really caught on. People, get it very quickly. It takes about, 15 minutes or so to explain, and instant enthusiasm for it.
That's great.
So that's, and I think that's another thing that distinguishes this from other currency design approaches is, that they tend to be very, require a PhD in monetary theory to get excited about, whereas this, I think people get it pretty quick that this is something that's exciting and beneficial to the community.
It is simple and profitable as well for everybody involved. And that's the other thing too, is that it's not like the usual. You have to sweat it out for no reward. Okay?
Yeah.
People who organize a community way, community currencies, open money systems will be well paid for their effort. They can be well paid for their effort. There's money to be made. Everybody makes money in this game. Everybody.
Yeah.
Because it's new money. It's new business-backed money.
Well, so let's
Oh, hey, Alan. Before we go on, I should say we've been at it now for almost 30 minutes, which is quite amazing.
Oh. Yeah.
And I should just say that I should just introduce us, i.e. Alan Rosenblith, in Portland, who is a filmmaker, and your film is The Money Fix.
The Money Fix.
That you're working on right now, Alan.
Yes, indeed. It's kind of nearing completion. I suspect by early summer this will be a done deal. So, yeah. And
great.
You can see that.
Do you have a website?
Yeah, I was going to say it's at www.themoneyfix.org. And that'll.
Yeah.
But we're about
and
to
you made a previous
that.
film. You made a previous film.
I did. It was called Dreams of Green, and it detailed organic farming and natural building in northern New Mexico. And it was broadcast on New Mexico Public Television back in 2004, I think. Yeah, 2004.
So can people find out more about you and The Money Fix and what was the name of that again? Sorry.
The other film?
Yeah.
Dreams of Green. I think it's hard to find information about that. It's out there, but The Money Fix, that's really a good source for information. So themoneyfix.org. Okay,
and you've got a group of people in Portland, and you're now interested in organizing Community Way and Open Money. That's something we could.
Oh, hello.
What you were saying, and that's Community Way and Open Money. What that how that relates.
Yeah, sorry, I missed that last bit. You cut out there for a second. So can you just repeat that?
Oh yeah. Yeah, before we get to where I cut you off, right, with your comment, I just wanted to say we ought to talk a little bit about Community Way and Open Money and how they relate.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, should I give a first sketch on that, or?
No, actually, I want you to go back to what you were going to say, if you remember.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was just going to talk about, just sort of continue that discussion about really building the partnerships that are necessary with charitable organizations to kind of get them to promote this, currency to their networks, and to say, hey, here's a great way. Because, it seems like when you talk about places where the system can break down, and, if you need to have the machine or the organism moving in an efficient manner, that's a real important piece, is getting the charitable organizations to promote this inside their networks. So I just wanted to talk, my comment was going to be just sort of sussing out some of the details around that, figuring out, what are some of the web tools, what are some of the materials, pitches, et cetera, that are available now for that.
Well, there's a fair bit of material available on our various websites in terms of Community Way. There's openmoney.org/CW. And there's a slideshow there. And you're familiar with all this stuff, but I think your question has more to do with practical application, and that, it's not so much those tools. The tools that are needed are already available. It's not sending a rocket ship to the moon. Okay, what we're talking about is the way I would see it happening, ideally, in any community is a group of business people say, holy cow, this is a heck of a good idea. We need something like this in our community, and they talk to a bunch of businesses, and there's 50 of them that want to do this, and they all have connections with the community organizations. They're already giving to community organizations in town, so they're already networked.
Yeah.
So my pitch to the community, or my approach to a community, would be to find some leaders in the business community. People who have standing, who have reputation in the business community, that can gather half a dozen or a dozen other people and say, let's do it.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's kind of where...
And the community organizations will follow suit. Then it's a matter of showing the community organizations what they can do with it, and providing and this is where the tools come in, of course, right? Is the web portal, which is Open Money, through which they can develop their own capacity for getting more of the Community Way money and moving it through their networks. Yeah.
Well, I think this is where, approaching, and our strategy here is to approach meta organizations first. So, organizations of organizations, business alliances, Rotary clubs, groupings of nonprofits, and, all that kind of thing. Because I think those sort of grouping organizations, if those people come on board, then it's a pretty simple matter to get it, I think, on the ground. And I think
I would agree if you could do that. The difficulty with that strategy is that the bigger the organization, the more difficult it is for the organization to make a decision.
Classic.
They tend to avoid, shy away, and not make those kinds of decisions.
Well, I'll just have to talk
unless there's a champion within the organization. And this is so another approach with businesses is to just find a few, a good business person in the community who is also a community-minded person, and usually the same people, because they know that to have a good business, a thriving business in the community, you've got to be working with the community. Yeah. Right? So finding one or two or half a dozen of those kinds of people, even if they're small business people, in fact, and sometimes even better with small business people, because, see, the thing about small business people is that they can make decisions right on the spot. You're talking to the boss. Yeah. No, it's a much more dynamic kind of situation. Exactly. And if you can find one or two of those, one or two people like that who might champion a project like this, your way to the races, then you don't have to slog it out going to these interminable crummy meetings. Oh boy. You could be working on making your film. Someday soon. Get back to that one. So well, let's you said you wanted to discuss the sort of community way as it opens up, the door in the wall that opens up to the secret garden of open money. The door in the wall. That reminds me of Being John Malkovich. Yeah. You've seen that, obviously, right? Oh yeah. Very, very high quality. The door in the wall. Yeah. So what's how do you see that? Maybe I can just I'll kind of do my my rough take on it here, and then you can say or agree, disagree, and point out my error of my thinking or whatever. Well, no, go ahead, give it a go. Try and keep it simple, though. Yeah, well, basically what I see is, first of all, what you guys are talking about, that Community Way is a starter engine. It ignites a process of an exchange process in a community. It sort of is the thing that takes that potential energy and translates it into the kinetic energy, which then can build to a larger exchange paradigm, I guess you could say. And I kind of see two sides to that. In Portland, and I don't want to speak for any other locale, in Portland, what we're really looking to do is have Community Way be the sort of starting party for Cascadia Trading Co-op. And so it's basically looking to, once this process is underway, then we, basically offer the services that are, for instance, a commercial barter exchange group will offer. So clearing on open accounts between businesses, and then extending that practice to the general public, where people can go into the red at participating businesses, and then if they're employed at one of those businesses, have those businesses bring them back to zero as part of their salary. So all of that kind of scenario but Community Way would kind of be the thing that opens this possibility up. And so you're dealing at that time with many, many different advantages to many, many, many different people in the community. That's sort of one aspect, and that's something that I see being ultimately regional in scale. Washington, Oregon, possibly southern British Columbia and northern California too, if we can get around to that. So then there's another whole piece to this, which is the fact that there are going to be multiple networks on multiple scales that trade in multiple different contexts with multiple different tools. And to me, that's kind of where it starts getting. I'll give you an example here. There's a neighborhood association in Sunnyside, Portland, which just got a grant to do basically a sort of time bank swap kind of thing here. And, so they got their grant, and it's fairly low profile, and it's contained kind of within a bubble. And this is frequently, I think, what happens with a lot of these initiatives is
they're isolated pockets. And other members of the community, even if they're very successful, other members of the community don't necessarily have immediate access to that, those ideas, first of all, and then the tools for implementation. So to me, that's the real beauty of the Open Money Network, is that it just, if somebody comes up with a new game to play, it's just instantly, people have instant access to it, and it's open source. And I frequently do these meetings, and people often talk about doing house repair swaps. So everybody, come together, donate a couple hours on every Saturday, and then you rotate whose house gets a major project done to it. And and that's on a fairly small scale, but what a great thing! What a great thing to build community and connection with one's neighbors and friends and so forth. And I think if more people knew about that, more people would be doing it. If there was an environment where people could connect with others that were interested in doing that, more people would be doing it. And if there was
not only that, it's the facility to create a currency on the Open Money platform to keep track of who does what for whom.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Within any project, right?
And that's that's really what it comes down to, is who does what for whom.
Well, sure. Keeping track, and in a small network, that's easy to do. The larger it gets, the more difficult it gets, right? So, and as you add more and more of these kinds of networks to your world, then you need better tools for keeping track of that stuff, and Open Money provides the tools. That was what I was talking about in terms of making the connection between Community Way and Open Money. Community Way is as you say, a starter engine for the creation and development of community currencies and Open Money systems, so that anybody can create a currency for their network, like that house-fixing network that you were talking about, just by going online and creating an account and inviting people to participate. Get an account in this system, and we can trade with these community dollars. And that's the same and that's the other pitch, by the way. Making the pitch to the businesses in Community Way. Not only do you get to do this for virtually nothing, other than they do pay a fee in Community Way dollars to the organizers of the project, so that the organizers can be paid to do the work. They are also offered other currencies on the same platforms. So would you as a business also like a B2B account in the downtown B2B system? Would you like a regional B2B? There's any number of these you can, and if it doesn't exist yet, you can create it. Here you go. You own it.
Yeah.
Set it up. Just like an e-group on Yahoo or Google. Well,
I'll tell you, the way we're probably going to do this in Portland is, this is open for conversation, but, at least until such time that businesses are able to kind of self-manage these systems, I think, we're going to have this cooperatively owned organization where businesses and individuals and nonprofits would all be member/owners of this cooperative, and then the cooperative would be, responsible for implementing, managing, and all of that. The regional level.
I think you're adding an unnecessary layer, which may be useful strategically. I'm not sure. I think Michael has joined the conversation. Is that right, Michael?
Michael is here. Yeah, Michael is
here. Michael has entered the room.
Did I say something that touched a nerve?
No. He's just finished with his teaching, right, Michael?
Yeah, I have a brief interlude, and I can spend a few minutes with you. Not many, but happy to be here.
What we were rabbiting on about?
Yeah, I heard you talking about the varieties, the business-to-business options that come with the package. One fit sizes all, or something like that. It's sort of, once you got open money, you got it all. And this issue about what degree of incorporation or systematization is valuable, I think that's the length of a piece of string discussion. You know, how long is your piece of string? Well, some strings too long, some strings too short. And sometimes you can have too much organization, and other times you can have too little. And you'll discover as you go what tuning you've got to do. I do think there's value in some sort of stable organizational element, provided that element is also interacting with a much looser virtual organization for the whole process.
Yeah.
It's sort of, you've got to give people entry points and exit points.
Absolutely.
They can jump into this and they can take it lightly, or they can be full tilt. You know, it's all options are met.
It's not. People don't have to join the cult.
No.
I think it points to purpose. See, from my point of view, my purpose would be to start a community way project in order to develop community currencies and open money in my community, in my region. Someone else, and for instance yourself, you come to this from an idea for a cooperative, and that is your purpose.
Yeah, a sustainable society, a sustainable agenda.
I mean,
other people might come to it just because of it might address their homelessness issues, or it might address issues of gender equity, or it might be an opportunity for youth employment. Most people will come to this with a particular agenda. Only the most broadly engaged will have the biggest picture, which is everything you can do. The full economy, sustainability, co-ops, collaboratives, food security, energy security, etc., etc. So we got to keep all the doors wide open.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's. And I think that the power is to work simultaneously, kind of on a broad level and on a very specific level, and and allow people to move freely between them as they're willing and able. So, because I think economies do work on sort of nested layers of networks, and. Any exchange system has to sort of value that and has to be aware of that there are many, many, many different layers on which people participate in society on a sort of who owes what to whom basis.
Alan, I think you just coined another one there. You keep doing this. You had your rethinking something the other day, the red. Can't remember what that was quite. I've got it written down somewhere. But you just came up with nested levels of networking. Now, that's a nice juxtaposition with multi-level marketing. Everybody knows MLM, right? Multi-level marketing. Everybody knows what that is. We're showing people what nested levels of network can be. The NLN. That's a useful hook there, because people will, because a lot of people are going to say, oh, you're just doing multi-level marketing. This looks like a pyramid scheme. All sorts of head trips will intrude. And it's very nice to have something that says no.
Have you had that experience, Alan?
That's
been our experience but we've been at this game for a long, long time. Has that been your experience, Alan?
Well, yeah. There's always those first questions, but I mean, so far in the process, nobody's, accused me of running a pyramid scheme. But, there are questions that people have off the bat because they're used to kind of being suspicious and, anything monetary is something to really watch out for. But that's understandable. You just got to hold their hands. That's kind of how I do it.
Well, you've just born another marketing term here. We have the nested levels of network. Or maybe it's network level nesting. I don't know what it is, but it's the NLN factor. We're not going to be touched with the multi-level marketing brush.
Yeah.
Keep very, very out of those areas.
What was that?
You were saying, Ernie?
Oh, I just said I like network level nesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in any case, I mean, I think the point of just that there's and this is part of the pitch you guys make frequently with open money is that we all already are part of many different networks, and just sort of bringing that recognition and context to the game, I think is really important. And like something I was really I learned recently, sort of self-evident when you think about it. But somebody once told me recently that trust is domain specific.
Yeah, that's a good line.
Yeah, which is a really interesting when you think about all this, because there are lots of different domains that one operates in. One operates within the context of one's immediate neighbors. One operates within the context of one's extended family, within the context of one's, people with shared interests, et cetera, et cetera. So having different who owes what to whom structures, it does kind of point to that idea that trust is specific to a particular context. So anyway, not to get overly theoretical there.
I mean, what
not at all, but it's a good insight on the process. Yeah.
Well, and what you're alluding to is the currencies and flows that are made possible through the open money platform. And it's monetizing yourself, your network, if you choose, as you choose, in whatever way you choose.
So and I agree completely that it can't be, even though we are interested here in sort of starting this regional level cooperative kind of thing, entity, this can't be the sort of thing where people, in order to play any of the games, we're the gatekeepers. No, not at all. It's just that's one of the games that we're playing, and we want to give access to the whole playing field. But hey, in this corner of the playing field, we're going to be doing this. So
so it's the optics that you want to be cognizant of, that people will see if you're pitching the co-op at the same time that you're pitching Community Way and Open Money. People will, some people, not all people, but the tendency will be for people to connect the two and think that one subsumes the other. In other words, you're using Community Way and Open Money to launch and develop this particular co-op. No, yeah, absolutely. And I think, I think that this is kind of what I was talking about with the breadcrumbs, because, people, I think Community Way is such a great intro piece, and I think if I'm doing a pitch to someone and I try to load on them, okay, it's Community Way, it's a fundraiser for the third sector, okay, it's also a way that you can participate in monetizing unused capacity and doing B2B, okay, and it's a way to join the Open Money Network, and you can trade in hours, you can trade in kilometers, you can trade in inches, whatever it is.
right? That's a tidal wave.
You only talk that way to developers.
So, I mean, I think the key here is going to be setting those breadcrumbs so that as people sort of participate in one part of it, they can, see, okay, well, there's a whole bunch of different options here. And there's a whole bunch.
You just brought up something for me, Alan, about what Community Way also does, and it teaches us those distinctions. Because when I'm talking to a business person about Community Way, I'm talking to them about the specific benefits of Community Way for their business.
Yeah.
When I'm talking to a community organization, I'm talking about the specific benefits to their community organization. When I'm talking to a volunteer in that organization, I'm asking that volunteer, how would you like to get paid for your work here?
Yeah. Right? Not running a whole trip
and for the mother or father in the community of a student at a school that needs some money for theater and sports and that sort of thing, I'd be talking to them about, hey, how would you like to help the school without digging into your pocketbook any further? In other words, how would you like to exchange some community money for, or exchange some U.S. dollars, Canadian dollars for community dollars that you can spend at these businesses that are helping your school?
Exactly.
So each of those is compartmentalized, and they're very, very simple pitches. Basically, they're sales pitches.
Well, and what I like about this is the kinetic aspect. That when people start doing that, then there's a kinetic momentum to kind of that next step. And for some people, that next step is going to be regional level, credit clearing platform. For some people, that next step might be we could have a network in our neighborhood. We could have a network of people who like the opera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that just making sure that kinetic energy kind of builds in the right direction, and that we build the breadcrumbs into the system, so that we're not pulling people, but we're not creating barriers of overly complicated theory.
Yeah, I think the system pulls, because it's like the business who joins the Community Way project by donating to an organization and opening an account. They're opening an account in the open money system, which enables they can see for themselves. Oh, you mean if I click on this button, I can also have an account in my B2B? And over here, I see my church has a system. Well, I'd like to, so I'll get an account over here. So the open money platform itself pulls people in. It's a space. It's a space. It's a collaborative, cooperative space that will naturally bring people in. That's the way I see it.
Is the open money platform ready to do this?
We'll be in about a week.
Okay.
I think it's some Oregon people, Grass Commons, the people who brought you wagon.org, Ethan and Lewis are working with Eric's basic code to give us a usable front end. It won't be in any way a complete package, but it'll be good enough to get going with and give people an experience of how this can all be done.
Yeah, well, there's
and
lots of.
I hope to have it in a few days.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, well, this is fantastic.
Okay, guys, we've got 2 minutes left. I just want to, briefly, I want to wrap it up, and I want to suggest that Alan, you and I do another show next week while Michael's away. Yeah,
actually, I'm going to be in San Francisco next week.
When?
But
all next week?
Pretty much. So,
wow.
we can be in touch and figure out a time. I don't know my schedule quite yet for there, but yes, I am very into this.
Let's you and I see if we can line something up for next week and continue this conversation, because I thought this was a good show.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Alan Rosenblith in Portland, any last words for the huge listening audience out there?
Well, just that this is, moving very quickly out of the theory and into practice, and that's exciting stuff.
That's what we like to hear.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, we got 1 minute remaining, and so Michael, any last minute thing from you?
The world turns. Things are moving gently in the follow-up from the Mexico initiatives. Watch the Ning site, openmoney.ning.com, for future developments. Let's fly united.
Fly united. Oh, by the way, the transcript of last week's show, I finally got that done last night, so that's up. You can get at it through the Ning site. I put up a note.
Well done.
On the Ning site.
Well done.
Okay. So that's it for me. I'm Ernie Jacob in the Comox Valley. Michael Linton's just around the corner from me, and Alan Rosenblith in Portland, who is very kinetic and is going to be doing some wonderful things in Portland with a whole slew of wonderful people. So, bye, Alan. Bye, Michael.
Bye-bye.
Bye, world.
Bye to all.
Okay, you guys still there?
Yes. Yeah, I'm here.
I guess Alan won't be because he's...
Yeah. So let's cut off and get on the main line. Let's clear this so that it's not on tape.
Okay.